Good evening. Who expected two of these this quickly from me? I'm going to try to do this more often, hopefully on better subjects. But right now, we're going to touch on a continuation of what we talked about before in a very real sense. Things are moving very, very fast, remarkably fast. There are a bunch of things that deserve comment, and then a little more input on the recent raid and its aftermath. Number one, Rudolph Giuliani has been notified by the state of Georgia. Sorry about that. Rud- oh well. Rudolph Giuliani has been notified by the state of Georgia that he is under criminal investigation now. He is no longer a witness. He is being investigated as a criminal by the state of Georgia. That's one thing. Second thing, the courts have ruled that no, Lindsey Graham must testify to Fani Willis in the state of Georgia about his involvement in attempting to overturn the Georgia election. Perhaps, however, most horrifyingly, they've now discovered that the Kraken Lady lawyer and her allies pierced the election system in Georgia and some other locations and obtained privileged election data. Now, obviously, that election data didn't show what they hoped it would, but the fact is that in piercing illegally the voting systems, they were committing felonies. That is fraud. Furthermore, we don't know that they didn't manage to change any votes. It is within the realm of possibility that Biden won the state of Georgia and possibly other states if they were involved by more votes than we thought he did, because these are devout partisans of his who pierced the voting systems. I am assuming, I haven't read the details, this just came out. I am assuming that they did this after the election and they were trying to find what they thought was fraud and they couldn't find any. But I haven't seen that clarified yet. So that is my guess. If they were in those machines before the election, given how partisan they were, it's safe to say Biden won by more than we thought he did. And we thought he won by 7 million. He may have won by more. And that brings us back to Trump. I've written a couple of complex, whole responses to folk who are convinced that it's all a witch hunt and it isn't real. Let me assure you, it's real. And anyone who questions the reality of the Espionage Act, get yourself a medium and have a conversation with the Rosenbergs. They were executed under the Espionage Act. It's a very, very serious thing. Now, we now know, because Trump has told us, that while the FBI were in Mar-a-Lago, they took his passports, all of them. I wonder if they informed him that this meant that he was barred from leaving the country. He should know that that's what it means. He has been barred from leaving the country and stripped of his passports so that he can't leave. Any question that I had, and I did have some, there is a robust caucus, a robust faction in the government that believes that it's more important, and for that matter at the New York Times, that believe it's more important that we protect the dignity of the office of the president than that we enforce federal law. This tells me they've lost. When there is a clear seizure of passports, I believe he will be charged. I don't know how quickly, but he will be charged, because that is an attempt to prevent flight. One other detail before I give an analysis of some of the ridiculous arguments that are being raised. When I first started seeing people saying check Ivana's coffin, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a tasteless joke, a joke that I couldn't approve of. One does not speak ill of the dead. However, apparently she was cremated. I thought that was a joke when someone said it, but I'm told, and I don't know if I believe this, but I think I do, that she was in fact cremated. And that means that 10 pallbearers for a casket. She was a fairly in shape 70-some-year-old to start with. Then you tell me that they cremated her, and it took 10 pallbearers to carry the casket with her. It may not be a joke. As I said before, he had to know this was coming, and I already was willing to entertain it after I thought it through. Maybe it's serious. Maybe the most damning things were buried, and they couldn't bury everything. I don't know. But it is concerning. Now, just briefly, let's cover a few of these arguments. He has sprayed arguments out as to why nothing is, this was just a witch hunt, this was just blah, blah, blah. The things he sprayed out. He declassified the documents. Documents that have been declassified bear a specific mark. I will put a link in the description to the guide. They bear a specific mark. You don't just say, oh, this is declassified. That document, there's paperwork, and then that document has to be marked specifically and appropriately. Didn't happen. Number two, on the same issue, court decision in 1998 by the SCOTUS, the president cannot declassify TS/SCI documents. Those are documents that are top secret and compartmentalized. They can only be read in a SCIF. There were TS/SCI documents in the cases that were recovered, at least 4 bundles of them. He can't declassify those. It's outside the president's authority. So those were classified no matter what else. His second argument that he had a standing order declassifying anything he took out the door of the Oval Office, likewise, is bogus for the same reasons. No marks, no declassification. And of course now Kash Patel has publicly announced that no, they were never declassified. So they weren't declassified, they were classified. So lay those two aside. They were protected by attorney-client privilege. I don't even know what that means. These were not documents he shared with his attorneys, counsel. The argument is specious. It's a Democratic witch hunt. I said this before, I'm going to say this again. Except for the AG who signed off on Christopher Wray approaching a judge for a warrant, everyone involved in this operation at Justice was a conservative Republican, and all of those who had been appointed were appointed by Trump. So no, it's not a Democratic witch hunt. It's very convenient for him to push anyone who doesn't agree with him into the category of being a far-left Democrat, but they're not. And people need to stop believing that, or your party, for those of my friends on the right, your party will be the size of a postage stamp, because everybody who stands up to him in any way will be shoved out into their communists, their far-left. No. Just stop believing it. They aren't. Obviously, the arguments being made by his allies are false. If you ask, they'll give him back. No, he didn't. If you subpoena, he'll give them back. No, he didn't. He defied a subpoena effectively and then gave back part of the stuff in the subpoena, and his lawyer signed a document saying there were no classified documents still in his property. And there were 15 boxes of them. So that's bogus. The arguments being forwarded are bogus. They are an attempt to distract America and to keep their base from taking appropriate actions. Historically, the conservatives were pro-law enforcement, pro-America, American security, and so forth. Now we have the party of the right, the same party of the right, okay? We have the party of the right calling to defund the FBI, calling a legal search warrant issued by a member of their own party a political trick, calling for the elimination of a law that has protected us in the past. When Rand Paul called to eliminate the Espionage Act of 1917, the Espionage Act of 1917 has protected us multiple times. It also, although it didn't prevent them from sharing the nuclear secrets that were largely responsible for the Cold War, allowed them to prosecute and execute, whether you support that or not, the Rosenbergs for espionage and turning our nuclear secrets over to the Soviet Union. You don't eliminate a law meant to protect your armed forces and your foreign assets. You don't do that. The call is bizarre from a party that historically has claimed to support law and order. If you're on the right, your party is out of control. I don't care. You need to pour water over your head. Do something to make yourself think. Because Donald Trump is not your friend. He is not a candidate that the Republican Party should have run. And his actions are destroying the party. Please, wake up. If necessary, start a new party if you cannot purge him out. But do not allow him. America needs a strong two-party system. We're designed for one. At this point, we have one party that is patriotic and actually cares about the country. And we have one party that is some cross between a cult of personality and insane. And I'm going to add one more thing, and then I'm going to close this. It's not going to seem to relate at first. New study came out. As you know, I'm one of those. A new study came out, which was a replication, isn't quite the right word, but it showed the same results of the study from 2018. And the study in 2018 had taken old mice and young mice. You wonder where the QAnon crap comes from? And it is crap. This is where it comes from, folks. They took mice, they injected blood plasma from young mice in old mice, and it reversed heart disease and Alzheimer's and other things. Now, they didn't even kill mice. That's the basis of what QAnon came from. Somebody read that, or some study on it, or some report on it, twisted it around in their mind, came up with this idea that adrenochrome, which is a drug, by the way, but you don't need to torture children to make it. You can make it in your kitchen sink. But it doesn't lengthen your life. It drives you insane. Period. Period. That is its medical result. You don't need adrenochrome. And you don't need to torture children or abuse them or offer them to a mythical, non-existent being like Satan, who was created to keep people under control. You just simply have their blood plasma, and they don't need to be children. In fact, they should be teens and young adults for maximum benefit. Concentrate the plasma, inject it, well, actually do intravenous. It may have medical benefits. Are we headed there? Yes, but where we're more likely headed is to determine what specific portions of the plasma do that, and to create a new substance that artificially has it, probably through the use of culturing and maybe bacteria to create it, and then use that as a medicine. Nobody is torturing children. But this is where the idiot who started QAnon got the idea, right there with those studies. And of course, since they spend a lot of time condemning science, no one knows about those studies, do they? Maybe I'll link that down below too. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I'm sorry this one ran long. Have a great night.